Hello and welcome to another edition of Nation Building. On our program, we examine the political, social, and moral issues in the leadership of the Bahamas. On our program today, of course, we have another exciting guest. But before we get to our guests, we'll take this break and come right back.
The concierge service is the best thing ever. Like, it is so fabulous, especially for someone like me where I cannot leave my office, my job to go do anything in the middle of the day because I'm on the radio. The service was so fabulous. The ladies gave me a call. They set up an appointment. They come with their professional looking attire. They're just so cute. And they come here and it was a great experience. It took 20 minutes to switch over to the Alive service. It was simple. It was easy. And they just made me feel so welcomed. They explained everything. They hooked me up with my new phone. They gave me my data package. As you can see, hey. And it was fabulous. It was a wonderful service, but what I really liked best about it was not only did they come here and make it easy for me, but they continued to check up on me. The next day, they made sure that everything was working properly with the phone. I didn't have any issues. The following week, they contacted me again, and I've built a relationship with them. They've continued to check up on me. I feel like I'm part of the Alive family. It's amazing.
Who said you can't get great quality products at an affordable price? If you want the best quality food products at the most affordable prices, you must pick up the Jamaica Bahama brand of fine quality products at your favorite food store. Products like Jamaica Bahama Coconut Water, the most healthy and refreshing drink on the market. Jamaica Bahama Fruit Punch, the only fruit punch in the Bahamas made from real fruit. Jamaica Bahama Coconut Milk, green pigeon peas with coconut milk, condensed milk, kidney beans with coconut milk, corned beef, green pigeon peas, mackerel, and corn. Jamaica Bahama's fine line of products is available at all your favorite food stores and convenience stores nationwide. Telephone 351-8282 in Freeport and 341-4091 in Nassau. I don't wanna win. No, no, I don't wanna win.
Hello.
Did you get it?
Yes, baby. I got it.
Don't come home without it.
These arms of mine, they are yearning for wanting you. My darling, I can't get enough of your love, babe. Girl, I don't know why. Can't get enough of your love, babe.
Where is it?
Lord, some things I can't get used to.
Strongback is distributed by Jamaica Bahamas Import and is available at your favorite food or convenience store nationwide. For more information, call 341-4091 in Nassau and 351-8282 in Freeport.
Hello and welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock. And today we have a very exciting program for you. Today we're talking politics. In fact, most days we're talking politics. But today we're going to take an exciting look back at our history. Not so long ago, we have had many third parties on the political scene. Well, we've had it going back to the 60s, but certainly in our recent history, more recent history, we've had a number of very vibrant political parties. We had third parties like the CDR, the BDM, and of course the DNA. We're going to talk today with one of the more exciting young Bahamians who have had the privilege of leading a third political movement in our country in the person of Mr. Cassius Stuart. Mr. Stuart, welcome to Nation Building.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. It's your first time here. But we have so much to talk about. We're not going to get too deep in history, but want to start by asking what enticed a young Cassius Stuart to do what seemed the unthinkable at the time, to create a third political force in the country by starting the Bahamas Democratic Movement?
Wow, that's a powerful question. I remember being a part of the Commonwealth Youth Program. This was somewhere around in the 1990 something, I can't remember. You know, as you get older, time gets blurred. And I was selected as a Goodwill Ambassador for the UN Commonwealth Youth Program, Goodwill Ambassador, and I had an opportunity to travel around the world. I spoke at the UN on 2 occasions, had an opportunity to be a part of NGO associations, non-governmental organizations, to help foster greater attention to poverty alleviation, women's rights, female genital mutilation, a lot of global issues that I had an opportunity to be a part of on the global scene. And you know, I would go away and we would fight for this issue and fight for this issue in this country, and then I'd come home and I'd see all these problems brewing in the Bahamas. And you know, at the time we wasn't too settled on either the FNM or the PLP. I wasn't too settled either way. I mean, I had supported the FNM in the past when I was younger. But you know, there was never a connection. And I remember speaking in the first youth to speak in our youth parliament, Bahamian youth, and I remember someone said to me, "You need to do this thing." I was walking down the stairs in Parliament, and I hadn't really thought about it, and it stuck with me, you know. And I said, you know, from there I went to Barbados, and we had the CARICOM Youth Summit, and then from there I went to Holland, and then I went to the United Nations, and I went to England, and then they flew me me all over the world, the United Nations, because of course we were bringing value and adding and helping and developing and building. And you know, I just figured, you know, you want to help other countries and other people, why don't you help your own country? And so we started the BDM. I remember sitting down saying to some of my people, I said, we got to do this, we got to do this. What the name gonna be? And we went through several different names, and Bahamas Democratic Movement came up. And
But by the way, were you a part of the, what is now University of the Bahamas at the time, College of the Bahamas?
Actually, not directly. I never went to College of the Bahamas at the time. But a lot of my friends like Howard Johnson and George Carey and a lot of the people who helped form the party were in the colleges at the time.
Right.
So every day I would go to the college, and we would sit in the dorms, and we would craft a strategy, and we'd talk about what direction the country should be in, and then we crystallized the vision of the BDM. And at the end of that, we came up with what we call a 40-year plan for the country. And you know, that was buried out of the minds of a lot of young people who really had the ability to see further than where we were. When I announced that to the nation in 2000, everybody was like, "You crazy? 40-year plan? How you can do that?" And then we called it the National Development Plan, 40-year plan. And I remember them laughing at us. I remember them calling me crazy, telling me out of my mind, how could I see 40 years from now? But I did see. I saw the Bahamas, not the one we have now, but it's a different Bahamas I saw. A more productive, more vibrant, cleaner, more energetic, dynamic society.
And to be sure, the skeptics at the time that you talked about not believing that this was realistic or possible, was that the older or more senior generation, or was that a part of your own generation?
You know, what I found very interesting, my generation did not believe in us. It was the older generation that said to me, "You are on the right track, keep doing what we're doing." It's something I call the mirror syndrome. If you feel inferior about yourself and you look in the mirror and you see me, then you think that I'm inferior as well too. So my generation, when they see me, they see themselves. And if they don't think that they can leave the country, then therefore they say, "I can't do it." So let's go to somebody older because I can't do it, so probably he can't do it. So it's a mirror syndrome that I call. And that was the problem that we ran into, that most of our supporters was not necessarily younger people.
That's interesting.
And it was more the older people who supported us and who believed in us, because let me tell you something, when you reach a certain age in life, you need to bank on the next generation because you know that the future lies with them. We are almost at the end of the line. So we have to now cast our lots with the younger generation so that they can now perpetuate the vision of moving forward. And so the challenge we had is that how do we get the younger minds to be more dynamic in their thinking, to think beyond where we are and how can we develop a society. And so what I did was I did a lot of creative stuff, when we did the BDM. We put all this on paper, but first of all, anybody could read that because it's too long and cumbersome. So I put it in a graphic form where we designed the University of the Bahamas, and we had the university come out the air and landed in Andres, and we showed how we wanted to build the Andres International Airport now to be the transshipment hub between the Bahamas and the rest of South America and North America and Central America. We talked about how we want to build new hospitals. We want to make Andres a city of knowledge and now move from tourism to edutourism. We talked about how we now wanted to transform the economy of the Bahamas, because most economies moved from the agrarian economy to the industrial economy to the service economy. Now
the Bahamas jumped.
Well, we still stuck between the agrarian and the industrial. Service economy, we hover in there, but now it's now the knowledge-based economy.
Well, some would say that we moved as a country from the agrarian era to the service industry, which is really
you're right.
not
you're
transitioning
right.
the gradual step.
We never had the industrial part.
Which worked in some regards to our detriment, because that discipline, the process that of discipline and development and growth never really occurred. We went from a fishing village, some say, to the top of the economic ladder in terms of what we offer
very quickly,
which is service industry.
And what you said is so key, because the process is what they call the law of the farm or the law of the harvest, the law of the harvest. And we learned this in university, that if you cram the day before an exams just to get an A, you don't necessarily learn nothing because you're cramming. But if you take your time and study over time, you'll be able to retain that information long after you left college. Right. And so the law of the harvest says that I want to get it now. But the law of the farm says I want to plant a seed and I want to watch it grow organically, naturally.
Isn't that a spiritual principle?
It is a spiritual principle. It is a spiritual principle, and it's a principle in which we need to learn that everything doesn't come instantly. We call it the microwave generation, where you get it instantly. But in an economy, in a society, you got to understand that there are some organic growths that needs to happen, and our economy needs to go through that as well too. And so, for us, we wanted to look at how do we now move the Bahamas, heavily dependent on tourism, but not necessarily move it from tourism. It's what they call differentiation. In business, if you have a product, and the product is successful, but every product has its peak. When a product peaks, it's what they call differentiation. So you can take coffee and make it into mocha. You can take popcorn and make it into caramel corn. Same thing, it's just a little differentiation.
Right.
So you take tourism.
Some call it diversification.
Yeah, diversification, differentiation. But what you call it, what you take tourism and you put a twist on it where you say edutourism. We can sit down with the United Nations and you can say, listen, we will build the International School of Diplomatic Training in Andres, where diplomats from every country in the world comes to the Bahamas for training.
Let me ask you a question. How would such lofty ideals, I for one remember the days when the BDM was formed and the many brilliant ideas that came out of you and your colleagues at the time. What is the disconnect between the country getting excited about new ideas that comes on the scene, but actually not turning out to support, to the polls to support those persons who are championing those causes? What is the disconnect?
Well, the disconnect is that, there another principle in play here. It's whether you want something 10 years from now or you want an instant gratification. You want a couple of dollars now and I'll vote for you now, or you want a long-term plan to develop the country for the rest of your life, for the rest of your children and your children's life. And so a lot of people are, because we have a society where we have a lot of the lower income brackets, which consist of perhaps the bulk of the people, they have to grapple with, I need my light bill paid now, I need these immediate needs now. What you're talking is future needs. I need immediate needs, so I need to be able to say, how do I get my bill paid? And this man just came and he dropped $500 in my pocket, so I supported him. And so that is a challenge you have, because we have a large population that is perhaps in a lower...
Dependent?
Well, dependent, lower middle income. But not only that too, is that even those who perhaps can afford it too, still lend to that during election time. lend to that behavior. If I wait,
Are we
I
as a
want to see what I can
people,
get.
are we then as a people a slave to what some say started with the United Bahamian Party way back in the day? Before I studied this, I thought the PLP was the ones that
No,
started the
it's the
handout.
UBP.
But the UBP, history says, mastered the craft of especially in the Family Islands, but across the country, of providing support to our people. Back then it was as cheap as providing flour and basic food items, right? It's evolved, of course, to cash and other things. So my question is, have we, as a people, become a slave to these trappings?
Yeah. See, our pastor always used to say, Pastor Miles, is that law creates behavior. And the minute we begin to craft laws that really strengthen our election procedures, then behaviors are adjusted. And so if you say that, you know, if the laws are now enforced strictly, that, you know, certain things cannot be done, only a certain money can be spent, and so on, then behaviors will be adjusted. But if it's a free-for-all, then, you know...
And who are going to adjust those laws?
Well, I mean, people put systems in place.
Certainly not those who are beneficiaries.
You can't let, if you allow the fox to guard the chicken coop, right? Of course, he can take all the chicken. But, you know, systems need to be in place to be able to protect your democracy. The reason why a democracy needs to be protected, because that's the embryonic process of a government. So if the democracy at the election time is corrupt, then the seed of that government, which is started during the election time, that was corrupt then, more than likely you'll be corrupt when you're governing, because you bend the law to get there. To keep it, you'll continue to bend the law. And so we have to find ways where you can make it more create more greater integrity in the electoral process, so that you'll have people upstanding right during the election, during their governance.
But you are talking an idealistic talk. The question is, if persons who share your ideals will ever see the light of day in terms of governing the country to create the laws you're asking for, it means that the Bahamian people, the people you talk about, will have to come around to a mindset that they see the need to vote for people who are going to give them that kind of government, and they have to buy into that. And your own words seem to suggest that they struggle to do that.
I mean, it's the evolution of a government, and really and truly, there's certain ways that you can grow. You can grow slowly, you can grow fast. There was a country called Singapore, and we all sometimes lend to their success. They became independent in around about 62. We became independent about 61 and 67 and 73, right? From then to now, they have done a remarkable job at transforming their society from a peasant class to a first class. What is the difference between them and us? There is no difference.
Discipline?
The discipline. You see, our preamble says that our self-discipline is a part of who we are as a country.
Supposed to be.
Supposed to be. If we adhere to what the preamble speaks of, that self-discipline, whether it comes from the electoral process to governance, has to be a part of what we do. And then Lee Kuan Yew always talks about excellence. You know, people got mad at him because he would punish people for throwing gum on the streets. And he said, I put that law in place because I don't want you to offend one person. If you spit gum out and one person steps in it, you offend them. So nobody could chew gum. So, oh, you're a dictator. But the country is the cleanest country in the world. You understand? So what do you want? You want the country to be filthy? And so, you know, but there are certain steps you have to take. You know, there are certain things you got to do. When Lee Kuan Yew took the power, he said they were very poor. They used to just manufacture mosquito coils. They went under Malaysia and people thought they were going to fail. But he said that, you know what, they were determined to succeed. So what they put in place is they put in the National Force Savings Plan, where they put everybody to work. Part of their money, part of everybody's salary went into an account, and the government matched it. They can only touch that account when they retire. So everybody in Singapore had a retirement account when they retire. They could use that money to buy a house. They could use that money to invest, but they can't use that money to spend lavishly. And so now everybody have a nest egg and a cushion at the end of the day. They would do when Hewlett Packard came to invest in that country, They took the National Insurance Fund and they partnered with Hewlett-Packard and they partnered with everybody. So 50% of all the earnings of these big companies went back into the treasury. So what they developed, their profits were higher than their GDP. And so you got to find strategic ways to generate wealth as a country. And what I think our government has failed to do is that we think that all the wealth that's supposed to come to the Bahamas should be developed in the Bahamas. America has been around for about 200 plus years, right? And they have embassies all over the world. And these embassies designed to make sure protect American interests wherever they are. So in the Bahamas, the embassy here is designed to protect the interests of America. That means find jobs, make sure that they can get access to corporations and so on and so on. So that when American companies in the Bahamas now export their money back to America, that money is taxed. So America is getting money that was not necessarily generated in America. In the Bahamas, we have embassies in Cuba, in China, but do these embassies work for Bahamian interests by making sure the Bahamian corporations can go into Cuba and develop businesses so that when the money is exported back to the Bahamas, that is taxed? You see, you have to be creative when you talk about generating wealth for a nation. We have a small country, 250,000 people, and we can tax them people to death in order to be able to survive. That's why the government is borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, because the amount of money we bring in is not sufficient to keep us going because the population is too small. And so what happened is that because it's so small, we got to find new and creative ways to bring wealth into the country. And so part of that is to making sure that the domestic arm of the Bahamas can be exported out. In other words, let Winston Pinnock take $100 million invest in China. When he bring that money back, we can tax that money.
Now, Winston Pinnock don't have $100 million. You're watching Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and we'll be right back after these messages.
I've been a customer for the past 2 years, and I will say the quality of the service is very good. During my trip to Andros, I was connected the entire trip. So that was really good. I was able to contact my family members and let them know how the trip was going. We touched land, we're here. So it was very good. And I really appreciate that. And also during times like when we had the storm, it was really good to have that service to reach out to our loved ones to make sure everyone is okay. And I really appreciate Alive for that. And even when there's a little technical difficulty, they always send out a little text message to let us know exactly what's going on. I'm happy to be alive, and I believe in best.
Hello, I'm Wendell Jones, and every time I sit down and I watch JCN television, I drink the Jamaica Bahama food juice. It's so pleasing to the palate.
I've been cooking Bahamian dishes for generations. I now use Jamaica Bahamas product. The rice is very fluffy, very tasty, and good eating. Jamaica Bahama product is simply the best.
As an insurance agent, my life is go, go, go. But whenever I need a refreshing break, it's Jamaica Bahamas Island Mixed Fruit Drink. Good.
Hi, I'm Debbie Bartlett from GEMS 105.9 FM. The effect that Island Junkanoo Juice Medley has on me is exhilarating.
Hello.
Did you get it?
Yes, baby. I got it.
Don't come home without it.
These arms of mine, they are yearning for wanting you.
Where is it?
Strongback is distributed by Jamaica Bahamas Import and is available at your favorite food or convenience store nationwide. For more information, call 341-4091 in Nassau and 351-8282 in Freeport.
Hello and welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and I'm here today with Mr. Cassius Stuart. Of course, Mr. Stuart was the leader of the Bahamas Democratic Movement, who contested several elections and I believe a by-election in our country. Let me, before we move on in this segment, Mr. Mr. Stuart, to ask you, you speak very passionately and eloquently, and obviously you clearly demonstrated in the first segment so much ideas and thoughts about what you and others envisioned as a future Bahamas. Where did you get this passion from? Were you influenced by any major political or spiritual leaders that caused you to develop this passion for our country?
I remember at the age of 14 years old, we were young, we were bad, doing all kind of bad things. And I found a church that steered me in the right direction. I met Miles Monroe, Richard Pinder, and I sat under them for 30 years.
And that's Bahamas Faith Ministries.
Bahamas Faith Ministries. And I think that at that point in my life was the turning point. Because before that, I wasn't interested in going off to college. I wasn't interested in graduating from school. I was trying to find a way to get out of school. And so I was doing everything to get kicked out of school, but they wouldn't kick me out of school. And then I met Miles Monroe, and he told me that I have potential to be great, and I have my purpose is great. And then when I locked in, I was like, Pastor Miles, I want to go off to college. And he said, you can go. I said, I have no money, but he said, still go. And I went off to university. I got my associate's degree from Miami-Dade. I graduated, and I went to Tennessee State. I got my bachelor's degree. And then when I came back, I got a master's degree. And, it was because I had something to believe in. And I found a greater purpose. And buried in all of that was the passion to make your country great. And so for me, it's that, what I see in my mind and in my spirit is a country that is more dynamic, more productive, the people are more together, and all that comes through leadership, because the speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. And so wherever the leader's going, that's where the country is going. The problem is, if the country don't know where it's going, that's because the leader don't know where he's going. And the sad thing is, when the blind lead the blind, everybody's falling into the ditch.
But some would argue, you are passionate and others about these issues. But the Bahamian voters has said time and time again that they prefer the status quo.
Yeah, but you can't, in a democracy, you can't argue with that, because it is what it is.
So are people like you wasting your time and your energy?
We feel like
in
trying
to convince the Bahamian people of a future that may seem bright and may be bright, but they don't seem to be quite interested in for one reason or the other?
Plato says, among all forms of government, he preferred democracy. But the problem with democracy is you don't choose the smartest or the greatest. You choose the most popular. And sometimes you can choose the dumbest, even though he's the most popular. So, hence, we have the problem. So in a democracy, you put...
Who do you blame for that, though? If you have great ideas, isn't it your responsibility to be able to package those ideas in a way that is palatable and attractive for those who are wanting to support those ideas? You said you are bringing these ideas for the benefit of the people. If they don't understand, if it's not connecting with them, isn't it the job of the visionary you talked about the late Dr. Miles Monroe. Didn't he package his ideas in a form that attracted people like yourselves who were not interested in school, not seeing a bright future? So haven't you failed and others fail to package your vision so that the Bahamian people can buy it?
To an extent. However, there are a number of variables in the equation, though. For us as small organizations, when you start, you got to get people to believe in what you're doing, and it's that organic growth I'm talking about there again too. Brandwell had the same issue. How do you get people to believe? And a lot of people came. How do you get them to stay? And sometimes in our economy and the type of country that we have, it all boils down to that money. So if the PLP or the FNM has $20 million and they buy up all the slots on JCN, ZNS, this, that, And the smaller organizations can't get access to that radio station to present their ideas, then they have a problem. The trouble is, I mean, right now the playing field is becoming even now with the advent of the internet now, because now you get WhatsApp and Facebook now, and so you can get access to more people easier and cheaper.
And even with that, the DNA did worse than in
the last
previous times. Yeah. So what does that say?
So I was disheartened about that for Branville. I mean, I understood where he was trying to go. But, you know, the trouble is, too, is that, you know, tradition, history, you know, I remember when I joined the F&M, and of course my father-in-law and his wife was PLP. So one of my daughters was F&M.
And your father-in-law is?
Alfred Gray.
Okay, former cabinet minister.
And so, you know, when she would go down by her grandmother house, she'd come back, Daddy, it's PLP. And I say to myself, the power of the grandmother, say.
Before you get ahead of us, let's, because we're going to get there. Let's talk a little bit and see if we can get, you have so much information that we're jumping ahead of ourselves. Your party formed in 1998,
yes.
Officially launched in 2000. So prior to the BDM, were you a part of a political party?
No, I was not a part of an political organization. I had a company called Information Systems Designers. We were one of the first computer companies in the Bahamas, manufacturing computers right here in the Bahamas. We were bringing in parts and manufacturing, and my company was able to put a computer on every island in the Bahamas. And to my credit, most of the people now who are active in IT around the Bahamas were trained by me. And so, you know, I'm proud of the fact that we were able to lend a hand to a lot of young people. But, you know, I only supported the Free National Movement on one or two occasions, 2 elections before. But I was never officially, I never been to a political meeting, never been to a rally. You know, it was just my support. But, you know, my introduction to the United Nations was, I think, the catalyst to really push me over to see the world at a more, a grander scale, to visit countries, to see how their governments works, and to see how process works, and to see how we can be much better. You know, I remember going to Amsterdam, and I never could believe what I saw when I went to Amsterdam, to see such discipline. I remember walking on the train. I bought my ticket, I walk on the train, and then when I reach my destination, I walk off the train, and nobody took my ticket. So I asked, why does nobody take my ticket? They say, because we expect you to be honest. Okay. I say, oh, Jesus.
Well, it seems as if you, again, the ideals you aspire to are not bad, and I wouldn't want to say it's unrealistic, but
it is realistic because it's happening.
It's going to take a significant amount of time.
And so the point I'm trying to see, but what I saw is what exists
elsewhere.
It's elsewhere, and all it takes is conditioning.
And time.
Conditioning and time. If one family, if you as a father, you train your children to be honest, to be respectful, to understand discipline, to pick up trash, to don't steal, and everybody does that in their home, we'll have a disciplined society.
Let me ask you, why did you said you supported the Free National Movement just by voting previously to you forming the DNA, to forming the Bahamas Democratic Movement. Why didn't you and others like you take these brilliant ideas and your energy and simply join one of the existing parties? Seeing that there is a reality in our country that it's well established that you are more accepting to the Bahamian public as a part of one of the mainstream organizations. Why did you not, and were you tempted to, and what was the reason why you decided to go?
As a matter of fact, interesting, I had a 2-hour meeting with Sir Lyndon Pinland 2 months before he passed. I went to see him. Fred Mitchell took me to see him, and him and I had a very interesting question. He asked the same question. He said, why don't you just join the PLP or the F&M? I said, sir, you know, in our generation, we believe in doing something different. We want to do something different. And we had a good discourse. We talked about Burma Road and talked about his history. And I talked about the future, where we want to go, you know. And he said, son, you can be successful, but you got to be willing to pay the price and show the Bahamian people you're serious. And so his last words to me was, you got to be willing to pay the price and show the people you're serious.
Were you?
And I'm still paying that price. Still paying that price. But, you know, part of the problem too is that in every political party, there's power struggles. FNM is having the power struggles now. The PLP has the power struggles.
The FNM isn't having a power struggle. The FNM is in government.
And having its power.
The Prime Minister
and having its power struggles. And will always have its power
34
struggles.
seats. I mean, there's no realistic. I mean, you see the gossip going around the media, but there's no.
I've been in the FNM, right? The FNM is having a power struggle.
So says Cassius, Stuart.
Right. And so when we joined the FNM, I sensed that same power struggle.
Okay, you're jumping ahead of me again. In December 2001, your deputy leader, Omar Smith, and yourself handcuffed yourself to the mace at the House of Assembly. It was quite dramatic, made headlines. You definitely, who didn't know about the BDM and Cassius Stuart certainly knew then. It was compared to the great event way back when Sir Lyndon threw the mace out of the House of Assembly. Was that just antics or just to get headlines, or what was the real reason for doing that?
Remember history now. In the 60s, Sir Lyndon protested against the UBP for gerrymandering. And the UBP would cut Harbour Island into 2 seats. Right? Harbour Island is as big as this room, but they would cut it into 2 seats in order to win, because it's not the popular vote, it's the number of seats. And at the time, when we supported the Free National Movement in '92, so the then Prime Minister Ingram was fighting against the Pillen administration for gerrymandering. And so in the manifesto 92, 97, they spoke about how we're going to create an independence constituency boundary and so on and so on. That was never done. When we started to do our protests against against gerrymandering, they were cutting the boundaries, doing the same thing that they spoke against the PLP, who spoke against the UBP. And so the same problem was being perpetuated. And we wanted to make a statement that at some point in our democracy, we got to live with what we say. And the idea was, well, it's pinning them throw the mace out of the window. Let's go handcuff ourselves to the mace window. And then they say, you got to go do it. I say, me? And so I said, oh, goodness gracious, I'm the leader, so I got to go, eh? And so we decided we was going to do it on that Thursday. And we sat in the House of Assembly, and I had the handcuff on, and I remember the mace going up, and all of a sudden, they say, Parliament is going to resume till Monday. I say, till Monday? So I now had this handcuff on me stuck.
So you had it hidden in your...
Yeah, and I had it hidden on. It was locked on. We already had it, because we put, and then one of our members said, why don't you put crazy glue and sand so they can't get the key off? I said, you ain't want them to get it off? I want them to get it off. So they jammed it with crazy glue and sand, so I couldn't get it off. So that day I had to go home and get the hammer, and I'm knocking this handcuff off my hand.
So before you had to, so you had it with one open.
One
obviously.
open, right.
So you ran to the...
Right, so that Monday, we went to Parliament again. And I remember we sitting in Parliament, and Carl Bettle come, always tease you, oh, you wearing all black today, Mr. Stuart? He teased me, like he always does. And so I remember, the Prime Minister spoke, and he sat down, and then he said, oh, Mr. Speaker, I have a correction. And he got up, and the guy who sits in front of me, he moved.
The Clerk of Parliament?
And that's when the mace was open, and we just walked right up there.
Oh, so you didn't run?
No, we walked the Speaker of the House said, you cannot be up here. And I said,
Who
Miss,
was the Speaker at the time?
Italia Johnson. Miss, what are you doing here is wrong. And I grabbed the mace, and I lock it. And Omar was in the back of me, and he seen him jump over me, and he locked it too. And I was supposed to give a speech. And I remember standing up, and I gave the wrong speech. And I remember the police officers, them jumping all over me, and they was trying to get it off, but they couldn't get it off because the crazy glue and sand with it. So the object was, the point was, see, the mace never leaves Parliament. They were supposed to take us in the Speaker's room and cut it off. They took us to Central Police Station with it. That's the first time it left Parliament since Pillen threw it out. And, that was the impetus that gave the PLP life that very same day. Because I don't even remember, I remember watching TV from Central Police Station, and I remember Perry Christie standing up, and he was pointing at Hubert Ingham, and he said, you sit down, blah, blah, blah. And from then on, that was the momentum that led Perry Christie to win the next election.
You're watching Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and we'll be right back after these messages.
The concierge service is the best thing ever. Like, it is so fabulous, especially for someone like me where I cannot leave my office, my job to go do anything in the middle of the day because I'm on the radio. The service was so fabulous. The ladies gave me a call. They set up an appointment. They come with their professional looking attire. They're just so cute. And they come here, and it was a great experience. It took 20 minutes to switch over to the Alive service. It was simple. It was easy. And they just made me feel so welcomed. They explained everything. They hooked me up with my new phone. They gave me my data package. As you can see, hey. And it was fabulous. It was a wonderful service, but what I really liked best about it was not only did they come here and make it easy for me, but they continued to check up on me. The next day, they made sure that everything was working properly with the phone. I didn't have any issues. The following week, they contacted me again, and I've built a relationship with them. They've continued to check up on me. I feel like I'm part of the Alive family. It's amazing.
Who said you can't get great quality products at an affordable price? If you want the best quality food products at the most affordable prices, you must pick up the Jamaica Bahama brand of fine quality products at your favorite food store. Products like Jamaica Bahama Coconut Water, the most healthy and refreshing drink on the market. Jamaica Bahama Fruit Punch, the only fruit punch in the Bahamas made from real fruit. Jamaica Bahama Coconut Milk, green pigeon peas with coconut milk, condensed milk, kidney beans with coconut milk, corned beef, green pigeon peas, mackerel, and corn. Jamaica Bahama's fine line of products is available at all your favorite food stores and convenience stores nationwide. Telephone 351-8282 in Freeport and 341-4091 in Nassau.
I don't wanna win. No, no, I don't wanna win.
Hello.
Did you get it?
Yes, baby. I got it.
Don't come home without it.
These arms of mine, they are yearning for wanting you.
Where is it?
Strongback is distributed by Jamaica Bahamas Import and is available at your favorite food or convenience store nationwide. For more information, call 341-4091 in Nassau and 351-8282 in Freeport.
Welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock. Today we're having a discussion with Mr. Cassius Stuart, who is the former leader of the BDM. He is sharing his story, his history, and his still have a passion for the country and the future of our country. Mr. Stuart, in 2002 general elections, your party, the Bahamas Democratic Movement, contested 12 seats of the 40 seats in Parliament. Which suggested that you weren't interested really in becoming government, but I guess you wanted to have seats to be able to participate and to build, as you said. Am I right?
Well, the challenge is for third parties, growing parties, is to try to find good people to run. You don't want to just put anybody out there because they want to run, because it'll bring embarrassment to you.
And people are not interested. Most qualified people that you would want to join would not be interested in a third party.
The pool of people we got to choose from is divided between the PLP and the F&M. They take the majority of people. Then the third parties pick up the ones who didn't get accepted by the third parties, the big parties. And so it's always, you want to run 40 people, and that's the ideal, but it's a challenge.
So in that election, your party got less than 1% of the votes. I'm sure that must have been disappointing. Quick answer to this. Why do you think that the party only ended up with less than 1%?
Still the embryonic stages of a political organization. Still there's growth, marketing, public relations, funding. you know, when you don't have the resources to compete against the giants, then you gain less market share.
Okay.
And so
So you did contest a by-election, if I'm not mistaken,
yes.
in Elizabeth.
Yes.
Another similar result again. Why did you not give up?
Well, you know, it's not in my blood to give up. It's not in my personality to give up. Just because it did not happen the first time don't mean it's not going to happen. But that by-election was the measuring stick for me and the turning point in my political career when it comes to third party.
And what year was that again?
Oh gosh.
That, if I'm not mistaken, was in the 2007 to 2012 term of the Free National Movement, the last Ingram administration.
I remember that very well because it was Malcolm Adley who were leaving.
Right.
And the people said to me, "Mister, we ain't never seen Malcolm Adley yet." And Ryan Bender, they say he ain't no Bahamian. He don't even live here. But anyway, that's what they say. But anyway, Trey, I was very active politically, speaking on all these issues publicly, always in the media, always in the papers, always helping the people, feeding the poor, this, that. You get a fella from the States who just come here, because he's in a political party, you can choose him.
Well, so just to set the record straight, Ryan Pinder,
he was a Bahamian,
who was accused of not being a Bahamian, it was a Bahamian.
Yeah, he was
it's just that he spent most of his life, I believe, in the U.S. His dad, in fact, was a member of Parliament. But I get your point, which is that he did not live among the people. He did not put in the kind of considerable time that people like yourselves had done. So it proves the point that it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And so
if you're in an established party and the people are ready to switch from one organization
then I realized
to
we probably wasting our time. We probably wasting our time in third parties because when I saw the Ryan Pinder won, me and Ryan is good friends. I love Ryan. He won, but he had no presence in the Bahamas.
The PLP won.
Then I understand how this thing goes.
Okay, even before that by-election in 2005, on March 24th, I believe, you pulled off another scene in the House of Assembly where you and your deputy Omar Smith blocked Prime Minister Christie from accessing the House of Assembly. Quickly, why did you try that? What drove you to do that?
Well, let me create the scene.
Do it quickly.
It was Stubbs who was declared bankrupt.
Sidney Stubbs.
And
Sidney
Stubbs.
Sidney Stubbs.
The law states that you can't sit in Parliament if you're declared bankrupt.
Right.
And so we thought we have to make a statement. At the time, the F&M, led by Tommy Turnquest, was the leader, was protesting outside of Parliament.
Because Tommy didn't have a seat at the time.
Right. He was a senator then. We was a smaller organization. We decided we got to do something even more grander than Tommy.
Okay.
And so as the Prime Minister was coming, we said we got to make sure he don't get into Parliament. And so as Prime Minister came towards us, we formed a human chain.
Right, that was Prime Minister Perry Christie.
Prime Minister Perry Christie. We formed a human chain to block him from getting into Parliament. And of course, it was very dramatic and very exciting.
And you got arrested.
We got arrested and was taken to Central Police Station.
How long did you stay in Central?
That time only about an hour. I let him go.
Right. Were you ever charged or?
No, we were charged with the first incident for
handcuffing yourself.
The proceedings, disturbing the proceedings of the House and the Senate.
Were you brought before the court?
Yeah, we went to court for a year. Yeah,
and what
the
result of the case?
When the PLP won, they decided to drop the case.
The PLP decided to drop the case?
Yeah.
I thought we have a judiciary, independent judiciary.
Well, I mean, I guess you
mean the Attorney General's office?
The Attorney General's office.
Decided
they didn't have a case.
A case to proceed. All right. They chose not to. So what happened in 2000, after 2007 general election? That was the second election you contested and wasn't successful. Then the by-election in Elizabeth, which told you it was time to move on and do something else. I want you to explain to us why you chose the Free National Movement over the Progressive Liberal Party when your very wife was the daughter of a former cabinet minister under the PLP at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Was at the time a current cabinet minister. How did that go?
At the time it was not necessarily driven by myself alone as an organization. We all looked at both cards. We met with the Prime Minister Christie, we met with Ingram and his team, and of course we had several deliberations, back and forth discussions, and at the end of the day the team decided that it may be at the best at this time to go with the Free National Movement, even though we knew that the Free National Movement was losing market share and was not looking good in the eyes of the people. The goal was, let's go and see if we can lend our support, lend our help, and I guess add value to the organization. Partly too, though we did not win that election, the FNM did not win that election, and I did not win, partly too because it was more of I think that election was more personal,
When you say personal, against who, the leader?
Against Ingram. Because I had people who lived in Bamboo Town who were FNMs, who had personal issues and said, I couldn't vote for you because I had a personal issue. I said, but Ingram didn't live in Bamboo Town. I was in Bamboo Town. But they had some issues. Right. And part of the two, that's when the Prime Minister took on the road expansion project and so on, but they didn't see the wisdom in what he was doing. At the time, the country was going into recession. And
in recession.
And he was stimulating the economy by creating jobs and services through capital expenditure. But at the same time, he was expanding the economy, expanding the largest capital expansion.
And some say that while the project was a good project, they simply took on too much at the time. And my own observation also and study said that it would have been wiser had they gone ahead with that project at the very beginning of their term, because it would have been completed by the time they faced the general election.
But also part of the problem too is that when you're dealing with capital expenditure, changing all old pipes and so on, you have to do it all simultaneously sometimes. And so, but I mean,
there's a debate about that, but the point is well taken. And so you ended up in that election with 33.5% of the vote, and you lost to Renwood Wells, who was a PLP candidate at the time, who got 39%. And so you were in a four-way race. Do you think you were set up? I mean, was that the choice of being sent to Bamboo Town? Was that in retrospect a bad decision, or you'd have followed it?
Well, I mean, people thought it was a setup. Ingram did not send me in Bamboo Town. What happened was the Bamboo Town Association asked him if I could run. He called me and he said, go and have a look. I went down and I met with them and we had a look. We did a walk around. And I called them and I said, listen, I think it looks good. I'll take it.
Okay, so it was your choice, just for the record. Why did you not participate in the 2017 general election? After all, you had made your entry into the Free National Movement, you and your team, in 2012. You had lost, the party had gotten wiped out, so there was no reason to take personal responsibility for that loss. I mean, the party had been completely wiped out, and as you rightly said, and Mr. Ingram said himself, he took responsibility for that loss. So it would seem natural and logical that in the next general election, again, young, bright Cassius, Stuart, and others would be candidates. You had a new leader, of course, in the person of Dr. Hubert Minnis at the time. What went wrong? Why did you? In fact, I was even reminded that you had considered running to be deputy leader of the Free National Movement in the ensuing convention.
Yeah, I did.
What went wrong?
I took, after joining the FNM, I realized that I had one ally in the FNM, and that ally was removed.
And that was?
Hubert Ingram.
Okay.
And I did not have...
Yeah, he moved himself.
Yeah, he moved himself. I did not have the will, nor the time, nor the patience to fight in that, every political organization get their internal struggle. I wasn't interested in that fight and that riff and that raff, and, after I pulled out of the race after I saw some stuff that went on. And after I sat down for a little while under the FNM, I realized that, I don't want to be here anymore, because, part of the problem is that, the leader doesn't engender that degree of trust, one.
When you say the leader doesn't engender that degree of trust, are you saying he was not trustworthy?
What I'm saying is the leader does not, when you say one thing and do another, then people have a problem with trusting you. And so,
and that was your experience with the then leader, now Prime Minister of the country?
coupled with other issues too. You know,
personal issues.
Yeah, not personal between me and him. We don't have a really personal relationship like that. But you know, but from joining the FNM, I left the FNM, and I left politics because joining the FNM made me somehow had a distaste for politics. I didn't like knocked all the wind out of my sail, all of the passion, the desire.
Was the PLP better? Was it, in
I'm
retrospect?
I'm not sure. I never joined them. Granted, all political parties got their problems, and you know, for me though, it was I had a bad taste in my mouth.
Okay, so fine. So you were uncomfortable. Let's put it mildly.
Yeah.
You were uncomfortable with what you saw coming out of the leader.
Yeah, and I had questions. I had questions with the leadership too. I mean,
fine.
you know.
So you decided to sit it out. Did the leader of the Free National Movement, now Prime Minister Minnis, ever reach out to you in a serious way to say, Cassius, you're a young man with a lot to offer, would like to have you consider running or being a part?
No.
Okay.
You know, one of the issues I had with, you know, being in, I mean, you and I have been in third parties, and one of the things we understand as leaders and as leaders of parties is that you got to have a connection with your people. And I remember when the second leadership race, you know, he was calling me, Loretta was calling me, and I refused to answer either of their calls. And, you know, I saw him the next day, and he said, how come you didn't answer my call? I said, sir, I've been in this party now for 3 years. You never once pick up the phone and say, hello, how you doing? How your family doing? But you can call me to ask you to vote for you. You know,
But most leaders do.
No. Most leaders don't do that. We came from a ministry who our pastor taught us what leadership is about. When even if Miles got to call me 1 o'clock in the morning, he can call me. So Lyndon was the same way.
You were special.
No, it wasn't special. You do that as a leader. You got to know how to keep your people together. And I don't ask you for nothing. If I say, I just call and say hello. How you doing? How's your family doing? If you as a leader does that, people will love you.
We're coming to the close of our program, and I have to ask you these 3 quick questions and want some rapid response from you. Is the third-party idea in the Bahamas practically a dead idea? Would you advise other young Bahamians, upcoming Bahamians, leave it alone?
No, I don't think they should leave it alone. I think third party is a good training ground, a development ground for great leaders.
Okay, so it's a training ground. Should the Bahamian people expect to see Cassius Stuart, who still have bright ideas and a vision for the Bahamas, in the future, in 2022 or whenever the next election is called? Is it possible that, or should they expect to see you?
I haven't worn a suit in so long. I'm back.
So you're announcing today on Nation Building that you're prepared.
I will now begin to become more active politically.
And you desire to play a role in your country
and
politically.
I can't allow my country to go down the path it's going.
So Cassius is saying he's coming back in 2022. We'll be looking out for that, and we'll see. Are you still a member of the Free National Movement?
No.
Okay.
I haven't officially resigned yet.
Okay.
Sounds
like
I'm not active.
Sounds like you're going to join the PLP. That's how it sounds to me. What is your hope for 2022 and beyond for the country?
I just hope that, you know, we become a more dynamic society. And I mean dynamic where we could now have a more aggressive economy. I think one of the greatest hindrances to entrepreneurship and development is the government itself. Its policies, its restrictions, its regulation. It kills small businesses. We have to find ways of leveling the playing field so that the economic pie can be dispersed to as many Bahamians as possible. And then we got to create a future for all generations of Bahamians. We got to make sure that education is a pivotal part of our society where we can continuously train and develop Bahamians to be the best that they could be. And also, too, I believe that the health of our country is really directly to the productivity of our country. We need a more healthy society. So we got to now, as a country, become a more healthy society. And once we do that, I believe that we'll be on the right track.
Mr. Stuart, thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts with our public. I am sure that viewers are happy that you've come back, as you have announced here on Nation Building today. On behalf of all of us at Nation Building, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week and watching our program. We continue to bring you educational, informative, and great programs here on Nation Building for you, our viewing audience. Thanks, and join us next week.